Today, I want to talk briefly about an idea for a nuclear power aff, a fusion nuclear power aff. Fusion nuclear power is a type of energy that is created through the opposite of fission. In fusion, two atoms are merged together, and they're held together long enough that the two atoms, they actually fuse into a heavier element. And when they fuse into that heavier element, they release a lot of mass, and that liberation of that mass generates a lot of energy. Now, we've been using fission nuclear power for a long time, but we're not quite there with fusion nuclear power. But there's been a lot of interest recently in fusion nuclear power, both because we're getting closer and because Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, the company that created ChatGPT, is very interested in fusion energy, and I think that sets up the potential for a pretty good affirmative case. Why? Because, as it just said, first of all, we are on the threshold of some significant developments in fusion energy, which could be enabled, as this evidence suggests, by significant government backing. Now, what does this have to do with Sam Altman and ChatGPT? Well, as you know, Sam Altman wants to achieve AGI. AGI, artificial general intelligence. Artificial and general intelligence is something that's difficult to precisely define, but it refers to kind of the average intelligence of, at least the average person. So basically, human level intelligence. And if you've been following recently, you see a lot of people are saying that is only 3 to 5 years away. So not very far. But in order for AGI and artificial intelligence to kind of work throughout society, that would require an enormous amount of energy. As you can see from even the limited use of ChatGPT, there's been all kind of stories recently about how much energy ChatGPT uses. So this would take a lot of energy that arguably, in order to get widespread use in society, could only be supported by something such as fusion energy. Now, so the idea is that you're going to say, hey, we're going to develop fusion energy. AGI, artificial general intelligence, is coming, but it's only really going to become ubiquitous in society if we have enough energy to support it. We support the development of fusion energy, and that leads to artificial general intelligence. You could have some, traditional advantages from developing fusion energy, such as, climate change, environmental pollution, those types of things. You could also explore some more radical advantages, such as how it might break down capitalism. Why? Because, artificial general intelligence arguably might lead to a lot of unemployment or just economic instability, a lot of people at the bottom of the rung, which will actually create the conditions for the revolution that the negative is often talking about. It could lead to the restructuring of how we do contracts, ownership especially, right? Contracts is, everything kind of becomes individualized rather than an overarching contract structure. Is going to change ownership. All these kind of things. I just gave here an example piece of evidence about how this could change quite substantially. And you can find a lot of evidence in the debate as to what artificial intelligence means for capitalism. But this is a good aff to argue against people who read the capitalism K. Of course, you're going to have to confront their alternative and argue that supporting fusion energy and AGI is a better approach to dismantling capitalism. But I don't think that'll be that difficult, because you're going to be able to go to a lot of detail about how this is actually possible at a widespread level societal revolution, rather than just kind of some vague idea that the negative is able to offer. So I think that'll work pretty well. And then you can have other advantages just by for example, just generally increasing the amount of energy. That's all the scientific advancements, human-led advancements that have occurred recently. This has all been due to energy, right? First, we had electricity. Electricity powered the Industrial Revolution. We had the Industrial Revolution. This powered modern agriculture. Modern agriculture freed people up to do things like create the internet, create medicines. The electricity powered the internet. So this is saying that this is really going to kind of speed up in the expansion and make lots of things possible. They require vast amounts of energy, and of course, without the polluting side effects. So there's a couple pieces of evidence. How would I structure this case? I'd probably say, well, for two advantages. One advantage is like environment, basically. And I'd say, hey, fossil fuel use, it's going to destroy the environment. We have renewable energy that generates all kinds of toxic waste, destroys the environment. Then I have a second advantage about artificial intelligence, and I'd say that AGI is inevitably going to be developed. In order to integrate it into society and use it effectively, we're going to need a lot of energy, and then I'd roll out millions of benefits to AGI. If they try to counterplan and say, well, we'll just develop AGI, you can say, well, that won't really work because we won't have any energy to implement it throughout society. If they try to say, well, we could just use renewables, you can say, well, you don't solve any of our pollution advantage, and that's not going to lead to enough energy. It's not going to break the limits. The same with like a traditional nuclear power counterplan like fission. It's just not enough energy. And that last piece of evidence right here, it goes through and it talks about how these current energy approaches, even if maximized, not going to produce anywhere near the amount of energy we need to get to the next level, of civilization. And then, of course, I think you set you up with a strategy. I get something like the CAP-K. That debate's going to come down to whether or not this kind of actual structural change that produced by the integration of AGI into society would more likely to lead, I would say, A, to an anti-capitalist revolution, and B, a way to kind of practically survive that, implement it. It provides a whole new outlook for doing so, whereas the only thing the negative has is this vague idea that the people are just going to rise up against all the banks and the corporations, and then who knows what's going to happen after that, right? They just say, well, it's better than the current system. But you can say we have something better than the current system that actually works and is actually likely to trigger some change that you wish to have. And, that's ultimately a big reason why Sam Altman supports AGI. He thinks it could lead to the overthrow of capitalism.